Welcome to Independently Speaking, the new podcast of the Independent Schools Association. Celebrating our diversity, we take pride in representing a broad spectrum of educational settings, including nursery, preparatory, senior, sixth form, and boarding schools. This vibrant network includes institutions specializing in the arts, sports, and faith-based education, along with those offering exceptional assistance for students with special educational needs or disabilities. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Independently Speaking. Now here is your host, ISA Director of Education and Inclusion, Helen Stanton-Tonner.
Welcome to the ISA podcast, Independently Speaking. I'm your host, Helen Stanton-Tonner, the Director of Education and Inclusion for ISA. And today we're continuing the conversation around AI and technology in schools by focusing on tech-forward teaching and how one independent school, Clare's Court in Maidenhead, is leading digital innovation within their community. Now, joining me today is James Wilding, the school's co-proprietor and academic principal, Jawad Laouira, Deputy Head Academic for the juniors, Paul Robinson, a Google-certified innovator and the senior teacher, and Lydia Lowry, the school's Head of Science. Welcome, everyone.
Well, it's really nice to be here. Thank you.
Now, I've given you a brief introduction, but I just wondered if you wouldn't mind each introducing yourselves and share a little bit about the role that you've played in the school's digital transformation. James, should we start with you?
Yeah, well, James Wilding, I principal, but I've been involved in using digital technologies since the late 70s, early 80s, and we noticed straight away that children were quicker onto the landscape than the grown-ups. So when in 2010, 2012, it was clear that everybody was going to the cloud, it seemed to us sensible that our schools should go to the cloud, and Google were kind enough to take me and others into their care as feature schools. And here we are now, 15 years on, enjoying living the digital life. And my article in the March edition of ISA's magazine helps highlight how we feel that ISA schools might benefit from some of the knowledge we've got.
Brilliant, James. Thank you. Jawad?
Hi, I'm Jawad. I'm the Deputy Head Academic at the junior school. And I've been at Clare's Court now for 8.5 years. And I have to say that the biggest learning curve for me was in COVID, where we all had to learn very, very quickly how to teach online. And then from there, I've worked extremely closely with James at integrating a product called Merlin Mind into our classrooms, and it has completely changed the way that I teach and the way that my colleagues have taught. So for the last 4 years, that's been our focus really, and we're still on that journey. We're still learning every day, but it's an exciting one to be on.
And Leanne, as Head of Juniors, how has your role sort of developed with the IT and technology in the school?
Hi, I'm Leanne Kirby, and I've been at Clare's Court since 2012, actually. Massively changed and really been part of that journey of our ICT development in terms of our curriculum, but also the products that we use. But actually more recently striking that balance as well, as Jawad said, about, during COVID, it was screen time completely. And now we've got to navigate what the landscape looks like now. So, it's just very much being, part of that and working, alongside James and his definite forward thinking. So, yeah.
I'm Malcolm. Afternoon all. I've been with Clare's Court for about 20 years now. And for about 16, 17 years, I was in the IT department. And I'm transitioning into teaching. So I've been teaching Key Stage 3 and 4 for the past 2 years now. And just working closely with James, as Leanne was saying, with new innovations in order for our pupils to succeed. So, it's exciting, really exciting.
Brilliant, thank you. And James, obviously you've given us a bit of your background within sort of IT and digital tech, but what made you really want to embrace technology in such a comprehensive way for your school?
There's no doubt about it that technology saves teachers time and saves admin time, but you've got to know how to use it and avoid the many mistakes that can be made, which are just so wasteful of everybody's time. So when I've looked specifically in recent years at trying to mop up, one of it has been about changing cost base. So by going Chrome and going Google and going Classroom, we've integrated families straight away into our thinking, so they are part of our classroom network. Families can see what's going on, they can sign up for what they'd like to see in terms of homework being done, not being done, and it's a lovely scale of activity now. And parents are increasingly interested in what we're doing. And Leanne and the team here at Juniors hosted a smartphone-free conference for the profession 3 weeks ago. And it is interesting. We've got to now navigate how do we use AI and tech amongst families who are increasingly nervous about an overuse of tech. So it's really important that we have handrails and guardrails on what we do, but make sure that when we do it really well. So the wow stuff that maybe Jawad and Malcolm can talk about that makes a huge difference in the classroom. That's the thing, that a really well-run bit of digital tech in the classroom transforms the learning brilliantly. And you can see it in the video that we produced about Merlin AI. But best to hear from Malcolm about why he decided to teach hacking to year 8 and year 9 and how to break into networks and how to take over M&S payment systems. I'm teasing, but Malcolm.
I think what the advantage that I've got is because I was in the IT department, I've managed to have a lot of resources at my disposal, and knowing the back end of the system is a great advantage. So I'm able to explain to the students, for example, networking and integrating. But as James is saying, as time's gone on, AI seems to be really, really, important. And a lot of our students seem to be using it. So it's just a matter of directing them to how to use it in the right way, as well as showing them and letting them know the threats, cybersecurity. And they really, really take to it. They really seem to be interested, and they seem to be so much, enjoying it a lot. They really are. And the advantage with that, and I've got children the same age as the Key Stage 3 children. So it's all relatable. Everything we're doing, the children are exposed to it already. They've got it on their phones, they've got it in the classroom, they've got it at home. And Google does help with our lesson planning as well. There's a lot of advantages. It's just a matter of how we focus and how we steer the kids in the right direction.
And those are really they are really like key steps, aren't they? Making sure that you're using the things that are interested, that the students are actually engaged with, and you're right, and sort of teaching them how to use those things effectively. But in more of a sort of overarching view, Leanne, you might be able to sort of answer this question from your role as head of juniors. Are there any really key steps in making it happen? Because you can bring in the technology, can't you? You can have the children excited, but how do you make it happen in a way that progresses the students and the school forward?
I think that's about, we're in quite a privileged position that we are a through school. So I think it's about making sure that you know where they're going on to, where they're coming from. So it's really about making sure you're mapping out the key skills at the right time. And obviously over time, things will shift. And it's the same in any area of the curriculum. You may bring things in earlier than you may have done a few years ago. For example, we had a money week the week before half term, and we focused a lot on money, and we were teaching year 6 were doing cryptocurrency, games, and I don't know if it was year 4 or 5 learning about scamming and things like that. So I think it's about making sure that you're up to date with your curriculum knowledge, your knowledge of the world, and knowledge of actually social media and all of the things that these children are experiencing, and making sure you're putting in those steps beforehand and teaching them at the right time. And that's really our job as teachers, isn't it? In any subject, it's making sure that you're hitting certain points at the right time, but also knowing what they're going on to and knowing what they've come before. So that's around curriculum development. also having those relationships with parents and families to know what sorts of things they're experiencing. And that's why we hold parent events or workshops for the children as well, to help us navigate and know that we're on the right path.
And obviously, with all of that, I mean, Clare's Court is becoming known as sort of, being quite forward in its use of EdTech and technology. And Jawad, do you sometimes feel there might be pressure externally from parents or even from the students to use technology across all of the curriculum, or has that integration happened quite naturally?
And I think the integration has happened quite naturally, actually. I don't think we have pressure to use it across the board. I think teachers are confident in using it when it needs to be used. I think as a school, we invest in tech if there is a need. I think James is really good at questioning us as to why we want something or why do we need that product. And I think as teachers, we've got a forward-thinking staff. We've got a staff that are willing to try new things. I think sometimes that's the most difficult part of integrating new tech. And I think the pupils are really flexible with how they work. Sometimes they want to use tech. Sometimes they have a choice if they want to type a piece of work up, if they want to do research in the library or on a Chromebook. So I think we've got a good balance. I think we're always evaluating if we're using it too much at times. And I think with the screen-free childhood thing that we're looking at the moment, I think we are questioning if possibly there's too much online homework, for example. But I think it's something that is completely shifting. We came back from COVID, and everybody was using tech at home, in school, and we've kind of slowly not weaned ourselves off it, but we're trying to strike that balance. And I think at the moment, for the world that we live in, it's a pretty good balance at the moment.
Our sector's really lucky because as independent schools, we can choose to have our own curriculum. And I remember being sat around the head teachers roundtable conference 7 years ago when head teachers hadn't actually thought about the curriculum for so long because it was given to them by government. Now, we left the national curriculum in 2005, 2006. So everything we do is based around a question curriculum, and the juniors call it their big question curriculum. So when people say we've got to adapt the curriculum so it meets the new world, well, actually, if you've got big questions, the big questions are in history and science. So now, I mean, I came into school this morning and we had a forensic science being delivered. Was there a murder today, Leanne? Do you know?
I think so. When I walked in, they were doing footprint lifts. So I don't know what happened, but anyway.
The whole thing, I mean, the news is filled with this stuff all the time. And when we brought in drone flying 3 years ago, who was to think that just 3 years on, we'd be talking about now equipping our aircraft carriers with drones and the like? We're one of what we're looking at is how can we excite the children with the knowledge that's now? So one of the bits we've done at the very lower end at junior level is just help them understand how teachers can communicate carefully with the parents through the Too Simple program. In other words, just mapping the children as they're growing through the early years, showing that we're documenting it. Isn't about the kids using tech, but it's about communicating really effectively. So parents in an all-through school get used to knowing, does the school communicate quickly and effectively or not? And of course, once you get to the age of 9 or 10 or 11, the children don't want the parents communicating with school at all. So tech helps us with that whole natural dialogue of things. But I'd like to bring in the value of tech and gender, because everybody says boys love this stuff and girls don't, which is such nonsense. The modeling that goes on in our schools shows boys and girls using tech in so many different ways, and it's not a gender-related activity. Pick up on that maybe, Malcolm, from what you've seen teaching girls and boys separately, where Darman's at secondary level. It's quite interesting to see that the girls are just as keen on hacking.
It is. And we've luckily seen the numbers really increase to the point that we've got 2 GCSE ICT classes this year. And I think the most we've had in the past is maybe 4 students. So it's all about encouraging especially on the girls' side, and showing that this is their path. And for example, with the Year 9 girls, what I managed to do is dedicate a whole lesson or two to the history of programming and computers. And it turns out, which most of the students did not know, but the first programmer was actually a lady, Lady Ada. And if we incorporate all these different things, it gives the girls more direction to say, well, this is your path. You are able to do it. And the girls seem to be more interested, as they're more interested into the design and the art side of it. And when you incorporate that in ICT and computing, it's amazing that the work that they're producing at the moment. So it's definitely not a gender-based, it's just the way you present the subject.
And I think that's one of the things that both, James, you flagged this already, but Malcolm, you've highlighted it there as well, is that being in an independent school, you're able to adapt and move the curriculum in a way that allows you to meet the needs of the girls and the boys, and you can actually change it and alter it where needed, depending on the cohort. And that's kind of in a sense, a challenge, which is a really positive challenge, isn't it, that you're meeting there. But obviously, with all of this, you've got sort of impact on the teaching and learning itself. And Malcolm, you highlighted something there with the GCSEs. But is there anything within the technology that's really transformed the everyday lessons, the everyday assessment, as well as the student engagements, or from a teacher's perspective?
Well, I know Google and Gemini do help. So Google Classroom is a massive tool that we're using at the moment. We incorporate everything into Google at the moment, and that's a massive help. And that does track as well. So in Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4, when you got your rubrics, you can track every single lesson that you've delivered. So it's a really, really big help to us. It's the issues we have as teachers, I think, is more adapting. So I've had to adapt, for example, the GCSE curriculum to modern times. But it's easily done as technology keeps moving. For example, really, really, really good timing, as in with my Year 10 students, girls and boys, I was introducing social media, viruses, malware, and Marks and Spencer's got attacked. Harrods got attacked. The Co-op got attacked. So you can incorporate, you just have to be up to date and adapt as you go along. And you still sit with your standards, curriculum. So it is a challenge, but it keeps us going.
From a junior point of view, we've been using a product called Merlin Origin. I just checked my emails actually, and the first I had heard of this product was 4 years ago. It was June 2021, and I think as a school, we used it first in a senior science lab. And the first kind of product that was released was good, but it had serious limitations. And the newest product has completely adapted the way that I teach, and it's enhanced the learning of the pupils too. In the simplest form, you have this remote, which I've got right in front of me, and it just takes you away from the front of the class at your computer, so you can do everything from where you are in the room. So you can be with the pupils when they're learning. You can pause videos from wherever you are. The children can ask it questions. It works as an AI tool. So if there's something that the children want to ask, you literally press a button, the pupil can ask it, and you get an answer immediately. It's got Google Classroom integration, so you can add anything to your Google Classroom. And I don't go a day without teaching it. And I think when I said about the school investing in tech, I think it is making the right choices where it's tech that you use every day. I've worked in schools where you've had a bank of iPads that sit in a cupboard for 3/4 of the year without any forward thinking of how can we use it. But we have this product across our classrooms from Year 3 to Year 6, and slowly but surely, I think all staff are on board with how much it can help their teaching. There's the lesson planning function too. There's a well-being tracker that you can do with your class in the morning, and it's all all integrated. So it's become the norm across our junior school now. So yeah, I think for me, in my time at Clare's Court, it's the tech that has had the biggest impact on the way that I teach and the way that I deliver content to the pupils.
And you've highlighted a good point there as well, in that you're sort of saying, choose wisely. I think you're absolutely right. There are many schools that unfortunately may not have had the skills or the knowledge and haven't chosen so widely, and they could have ended up with technology that isn't being used. Like you said, you've been in a school with iPads sitting in a cupboard. That's actually quite a common thing in many schools. But obviously, with you all on the call, you're all very at the forefront of what you're doing within your school. So how do you ensure across the whole community that technology is enhancing rather than replacing that sort of essential teacher-student interaction?
Can I talk about relationships first?
Yeah, sure.
The absolute certainty is we've got to have great relationships with both our children and our parents, and those relationships are reinforced using the tech. And a good example is we use a product from Australia called School TV, and it's bespoke to our school, the way it's branded and like. And so in any parent has any mental health issues at home and so on, they can contact school, but they always know there's a reliable external source validated by the school they can go to and look up. So I think we're finding EdTech helps validate it. I've been talking to Leanne and the junior team here about how the data benchmarking we use. So a child comes into the school and it's specifically being able to use IT tools to identify their learning capacity. And that's something Leanne and I were talking about today, about how we can take those next steps through. Because when you look at what the government want from learning capacity, they don't have a regime that understands it at the individual level. They want to wrap everybody up in a cohort and say, how well is the cohort doing? But schools that have an individual approach to learning, I've got maybe 18 kids in my class, but I'm going to take an individual approach to them, knowing that I know their background. Maybe Leanne could pick up how that helps build the relationships with parents when they say, so how secure is your data? And you say, well, look, have a look. And those assessments are really important, not just on entry, but through the school.
Yeah, that we literally were having this conversation this morning where it's, instant. So I can pull up someone's data that's live and I can use that to inform the parent meetings that I have in terms of whether it's about next steps into secondary school or interventions that might be needed, or, helping parents really understand education. And that is a big part of it. As James said, it's about those relationships and gaining that trust and ensuring that our parents know that we are knowledgeable about these things. So actually then they do trust us that we are striking the right balance. And just to repeat essentially the thread that's going through this conversation, we are absolutely, and it is, through James's leadership and Hugh's, his brother, I think it's not jumping into something too quickly. Yes, getting onto something quick enough, but not making a jump or a decision too quickly unless it's the right thing to do. So I think parents trust us on that. Having that data that is valid and from an organisation and an assessment tool that's also trusted is really important. And actually that feeds into as well the other tools that we use to assess children on a sort of daily basis. The subscriptions that we have, we don't have too many actually, because we are an independent school and we do design our own curriculum, and that gives us that flexibility. But we do use some online tools that give instant feedback and adapt and change the lessons as they're going along. They're invaluable. So there's so much that we use and we talk about with parents as well, and we show them, and we guide them through how we're adapting to their child's needs, whatever that might be.
Malcolm and Jawad, is there anything you wanted to add to, we were talking about making sure technology enhances rather than replaces essential teacher-student interactions. Is there anything you two wanted to add to that?
I can add, Leanne kind of mentioned it, that one of our subscriptions is LBQ, so the pupils are working on their Chromebook and you can see live exactly what they're doing. So from my point of view, it completely enhances the feedback I can give pupils because it's immediate. And without that use of technology, you get the books in at the end of the lesson, maybe you mark it, the next day the children have forgotten. But that live intervention is invaluable, and it gives the pupils confidence too. So yeah, I think that for me is an enhancement in my relationship with the pupils and how I can help them move on.
So we've talked quite a lot really about different ways that things can be improved for the students, but also the staff, like in terms of scheduling, collaboration, efficiency, the way you're working with the students, those relationships and those interactions with parents. But with the technology that you're using, have you found that sort of automation and AI itself are starting to play a role in reducing the administrative burden for staff? Have your staff ventured into that, James?
We are really delighted that we have been understanding how the tools within the whole suite of tools we've been using have been slowly and steadily integrating AI before ChatGPT and the stuff came on. But there's an acceleration now because we have to write our own curriculum statements, and every parent has to be able to see our curriculum statements at the start of each year. I've shown our staff how they can actually just put in our curriculum statements into things like Notebook LM, and it'll come out with a suite of 30 lesson plans. Now, they won't be necessarily ideal, but they're a starting point, and that takes you less than 30 seconds. So the reality now is that we want to change something. Change does not mean drudgery. It means, let's have a think about bringing that in. And I like the fact that as we're looking at, we have to produce new policies left, right, and centre. That's so easy. We can get justifiably sensible changes without having to spend months arguing about what it should be like. But I think in terms of the actual practitioners in the classroom, they're the ones that have benefited most quickly. I think we're finding it harder to get our administration turning over to AI because so much of that is technical. It's about registering people. It's about talking to parents about fee paying and so on. So administration is taking its time to evolve. And I don't think we want to have a chat bot on the website saying, talk to your school registrar AI thing, because we're a school known for the humanity in it. But other schools will go other journeys, and good luck to them. We'll watch and steal the best ideas when they come out.
Yeah, it's always a good idea, isn't it, to cherry pick what you see that will work for your settings. And Leanne, have you seen anything from the staff with the younger age of children, younger years? Have you seen any real changes in the way that they're working with the introduction of AI?
Yeah, I think really echoing what James said, in that yes, there are benefits to using that technology to save time, so that you're actually spending the time on the individual. So have seen that more from administration tasks, I guess, from teachers, and but it is a starting point. We can all very easily go and get a load of lesson plans and use them, but that's not the individual approach that we have as an independent school. And there, again, as James said, there has to be that human element, definitely. So absolutely, in the right way, there is that time saving, and that is evolving so quickly that actually it's becoming better and better every day.
I'll give you an example of the fun we can have with it. So all of our booking for activities goes online at a set time and date just towards the end of term. Now, if we just relied upon that automated service, it's a little bit like trying to buy Taylor Swift tickets. The parents who are on it and everything's booked, and the parents who forgot that booking time was there and are there an hour later have no Taylor Swift tickets at all. So that's where you can automate as much as you like, but the danger is you'll upset a lot of people because it's about getting everybody included. And inclusion, I think, is where AI has its part to play. But the humans you can see and hear at the moment, we're all about that personal relationship too.
Absolutely, and it's vital, especially with the students sort of going through the setting. And Jawad, have you seen with some reduction of the derogatory paperwork tasks with staff? Have you seen them having more time interacting with the students on face to face?
Yeah, I don't think we've gone crazy with our use of AI. I think it's been extremely measured. I think at junior level, especially, the children aren't using ChatGPT for their homework, for example, like maybe the senior school are finding. So I think the children are aware of it. I think some of them might use it at home for personal things, but in the classroom, there's just small things, especially with Merlin, that just, like I said, enhances that time we have with the pupils. And as Leanne mentioned, there's some great AI lesson planning tools, but actually the personal approach that we have, and we usually work in teams of 3 or 4 teachers per